What model of all-over tractor do you have? Also, what are your thoughts on AI on the blockchain? I will take a picture of it and post it for you, Crypto Knight, because it came with the farm. It's a very old tractor, and I need to refurbish it and bring it up to speed. And I think it's from the 1960s or late 50s. And I've never used it. I've never turned it on. It just kind of sits there as a lawn ornament. And the prior owner that I bought the farm from, when he was a kid, the guy's in his 80s. When he was a kid, his dad ran that. So it gives you a sense of how old it is. That's a really good question, too. For Africa plans, any concern with political regime changes? For example, what if the new guy gets elected and sees his power and decides he doesn't want his people having decentralized finance? So first off, whenever you do a deal where there's a lack of rule of law or there's a little bit of shakiness on the political infrastructure, what you have to do is you have to build a deal where the economic incentives, regardless of the regime that's in place, are such that the deal is stable, because nobody wants to cancel it, because you're firing everybody's cousin. You're firing everybody's, you're taking money out of everybody's pocket. Uh, and that means you care a little less about the contract. You care a lot more about the economics and the deal structure. And you also have to be willing, in many cases, to be a minor party, even though you could be a major party, because that's what's good for the stability of the deal. So, for example, let's say you just two companies could do the entire servicing. Maybe you add one or two local companies and create a lot of local jobs, and you go and do this in several different jurisdictions. And okay, it adds a cost overhead of an extra 5% or 10%. But then once you've done that, any politician that comes in that cancels that fires people in like 6 different places. It's like no one wants to be that guy. This happens in America with the defense contractors. Look at Boeing. They make sure every place in America, there's somebody somewhere, same for Northrop Grumman and Raytheon, that's creating a job in some congressional district, especially swing districts. And if you go and cut their funding, they of course have to pull out of those districts, and there's political consequence to it. So game theory oftentimes aligns people much better than contracts and rule of law. Contracts in an ideal world are about common understanding. They're about aligning people and say, okay, this is what we're doing. But there's ambiguity there. And also you're dealing with emergent technology, and all kinds of things can happen. Civil wars can break out, and new president comes in. Like, every understanding the US government had is under scrutiny because Biden is president now. So anything Trump did, the Biden administration is saying, do we keep it or kill it? So you could have, in 2020 in September, had the best meeting ever with Pompeo and the US State Department. And then all of a sudden, there's a new State Department, a new president, and there's a huge amount of uncertainty. Even though you're best friends with all those people, the new regime is in. And so they say, yeah, maybe we do things differently. This is the problem with representative democracy and government changes that are sudden, is that there's a little bit of consistency issues and not quite the durability you need. Now, Biden won't cancel anything that's politically damaging. Even if there's stuff with Operation Warp Speed that he probably hates and doesn't like, that are just bad idea, if it would interrupt with the vaccine supply chain and the totality of the distribution of vaccines and be politically damaging for him, he's not going to do it. No politician in the right mind will do it. They kept that infrastructure mostly in place. If you actually peel back the layers and you look at what's happened there, because it was in everybody's best interest just to get this done, even though there's corruption and nepotism, and maybe Novavax shouldn't have gotten all the money that they got. And, there's not a lot of questions asked about the fact that when Johnson & Johnson got approved, they promised to have 100 million doses ready to go, and they barely made 4 million doses. Wait, I thought they were going to pre-manufacture the vaccine, whether it was approved or not. So why didn't they? We all kind of swept that under the rug, right? Because politics. So that's one dimension, and that's not Africa. That's the world. And let's be adults. That's how the world works and human beings work. We're not rational actors. Now, where and when you can get rule of law and where and when you can get contractual advantages, that's great. And that's awesome when you're dealing with companies. But if your counterparties are sovereign governments, they never play fair, ever. And you can't sue them. Even if you try and you win, ask everybody who's tried to go down that road, unless you're a big multinational company like a Microsoft or an ExxonMobil or something like that. And you have certain powers that we as a small company don't have. So I look at these things in a game theoretic sense, and that's why it does take quite a bit of time to get a lot of these things done sometimes when you're talking about a PPP, but it's a good anchoring point, and then it gives you a foundation to work with, and usually the customer base is something you can grow with. And then the pull model is better because that is decentralized, and that's not permissionful. It doesn't matter who's in charge. If it runs on your phone, you can't stop your people from doing that, even if it's inconvenient to you. So you need kind of a mixture of both those things, and together I think you can affect a lot of change. At least that's the way I think about it, And it's from my personal experience. I've seen a lot of problems and, things that opened up, things that closed. I remember when we were just about to bid on a hurricane relief thing with the U.S. State Department, and that was under Rex Tillerson, and we thought for sure we were going to get it. We'd talked to several people at the U.S. State Department. We were all fired up, ready to go. And then that week, Tillerson was fired, and they brought a new guy in. And I was like, so that's still going on? They're like, yeah, just wait a little bit until we figure out what we're doing. And then we never talked about it again. It was so frustrating too, because I was really excited about that one. But you live, you learn. These things happen.